Chakshurminitam lena tasmai shmi Shri Chaitanya Manubhisam Slapidam Navuttam Swayam Rupakaram Bhakti Swavatam Namo Vishmadaya Krishna Visa Uttanishvate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namaste Saraswati Deve Guruvani Putrayane Vishesha Shrivadi Yasatana Yasatana Anchakapadu Sarvipasambhevata Padittanam Pavaneyo Vaishnavaya Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Bhagavatam Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaurabhakta Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So first of all, it's so beautiful, but it looked First of all, let me express, I actually think I will just take this in my hands. This is not such a... Though I do like to talk Not so useful. I like to talk with my hands, but so I will be a little limited in how much I can talk with my hands. But yeah, I think this is more practical. Yeah, so first of all, let me express my happiness that I get the opportunity to visit you here in this university complex. I do like to do student programs. In Bangladesh, I'm very involved in the student lecture here. So yeah, the students are the future. Although there's not even so many students here, I think just a handful. Well, we are always students of life, I guess. We never stop being students. Yeah, so our topic today is forgiveness, right? And I dare say this is relevant probably for each and every one of us, because I'm sure we all have this experience where something is happening in our life and we feel very hurt and pained and so difficult to let go of this. Would you like to take a seat? When you stand there, it creates a bit of restlessness. Yes, so I prefer if everybody settles down. Yes. Or, I mean, if you don't mind, can I ask you in the back to come forward with your chairs? I usually, when I come in time, I rearrange the whole sitting arrangement. And I make it a semicircle. This creates a much better energy. Yeah, a circle. Yes. Yes. Yes, like that. Because I'm a personalist. I like to have eye contact with my audience. Yes, and here, Bruce. Why don't you come to the front?
Come here.
So I can see your smiling faces. Yeah, and if a little closer to that thing, yeah, so like that.
No quiz at the end.
Huh?
No quiz at the end.
No quiz. Don't worry. Yes, but yeah, we may sometimes be a little bit interactive. Yeah, so going back to the topic. So now you left that spot and moved away again. You're afraid of me or something. Like pandemic social distancing, this is past. sure we all have had this experience where we feel hurt, pain, and it is so difficult to let go of this. Sometimes we keep these grudges in our heart, sometimes for 20 years, right? Yes, and we can't let go of it. So, and that actually blocks us from moving forward. Yeah. And very often we think that to forgive, we do for other people's sake. But tonight we will discover that we mainly do this for our sake. Yeah. So there is a few little things to discover. So let me begin by remembering that our primary quality is humility, which we have to cultivate on the path of bhakti. Very, very important. After all, we know Mahaprabhu told us so we can actually only change the holy name if we are more humble than a blade of grass. Right? So, and this quality of humility manifests in secondary qualities. What do you think? What could be the secondary qualities? How humility manifests? Forgiveness is one of them, very true. And there's a few more. Tolerance, patience,
behavior also.
Behavior, well, there can be good behavior, bad behavior, but quality. Positivity. Well, what about gratitude, respect, right? So a humble person will always manifest these qualities. Whereas a proud person will not be able to tolerate, will not be forgiving, will not be grateful, and will not be forgiving. It's quite easy to say, oh look, I'm so humble. By the way, if we are really humble, we would say, I'm not humble at all. So just the fact that we say, I'm so humble, look at me, well, that's already false ego. False ego, very tricky. You see, I've published a whole book on the topic. Yes, so it's quite easy to say, I'm so humble. But then the proof will be how forgiving, how tolerant, how patient, how grateful we can be. Right? We can't fake that for true love. Yes. So, in forgiving, well, let me begin the discussion. There's only 2 hands here. 1 hand, actually. I would like to start the discussion by reading one nice statement from Bhaktivinoda Thakur. This comes from the book Chaitanya Shikshamrita. So listen carefully, he makes pretty profound points. He says, giving up the desire to punish a person for committing an offense is called forgiveness or tolerance. So there is 2 rather remarkable points in the statement. First of all, giving up the desire to punish a person for committing an offense, for giving us pain, that is actually forgiveness. In other words, when somebody is treating us badly or doing something nasty to us, we actually want to punish them for that. In subtle ways. It may never even manifest grossly, but in subtle ways we hang on to that desire to retaliate. It may manifest by not talking to that person anymore. Of course, it may have other reasons also if we don't talk to a person anymore. But this can be one pretty common way of trying to get back at a person. When we say, okay, I'm just not going to talk to you anymore as a punishment. So, and to give up that desire to punish a person for what they did to us, that is actually forgiveness. And then the second amazing point Bhaktivinoda Thakur makes is that he says that's forgiveness or tolerance. So he basically equates forgiveness with tolerance. Wow, we may have never even thought about such connections because they're pretty subtle, right? Yeah. And I love to talk about these subtle things, which we usually miss. Yeah. Because the process of bhakti is actually all about transformation, internal work. We don't want to stay as we are. We want to transform. And that requires introspection, reflection, and being a little perceptive towards our own shortcomings. Yes. And often these things, these subtle things, we can always justify them with our contaminated intelligence. The contaminated intelligence can find all the justifications. That actually I'm right, everything is fine for me, with me, it's all the other people's faults. So anyway, since Bhaktivinoda Thakur makes this point that forgiveness is very much like tolerance, it basically means that tolerance offers the foundation to forgiveness. So the inability to forgive is based on an inability to tolerate, actually. Yeah. So we will discover this more. And actually, you have to give me a bit of a timeline because I can talk for quite a few hours.
Midnight.
So, midnight, that's a little too long, I think, for my audience, so I can talk to them.
It's Friday and yesterday we wasted over the last day of semester, so everybody has time.
Okay, last day of semester, so there was perfect timing then.
As long as you want, Mataji. So, about an hour, maybe hour.
An hour?
Yeah.
Okay. Gives us a bit of time. Yes. So I would like to divide this session today in two parts. That I first want to shed some little light on the topic of tolerance, and then I would like to go through some forgiveness meditations, which are in this Fourth Ego book. So I would like to read them with you, just to tune into the whole topic of forgiveness and try to capture the moods, and the essence of forgiveness. Yeah, so now tolerance. tolerance, again, is one of these qualities which are so important in the path of bhakti. Because what is the entity which blocks us from tolerating? False ego, yes, exactly. The false ego rebels and protests and so on, right? So, that means if a person actually has cultivated tolerance, it means he has already subdued and dissolved the false ego a little bit. And if we want to go back to God, we actually have to transform and fully spiritualize the subtle body of mind, intelligence, false ego. Has to be completely transformed and spiritualized. If there are some little material aspects still there, it means another birth. Yeah. So, that's why tolerance is so important. It's actually a criteria to measure a person's spiritual strength and advancement, and how tolerant the person can be. And our famous examples are, of course, grihastha, right? Yes. They are the embodiment of tolerance. Well, next week we have so I'm sure we will discuss the topic of art. Yeah, so that's why this is such an important quality to cultivate. But one thing is, Bhagavad Gita 269, it says there, I'm paraphrasing, what is day to the common person is night to the introspective sage. And what is day to the saintly person is night to everybody else. So it basically means that the world view and approach to things of a materialist and of a spiritualist are as different as day is from night. Wow. This is a really important thing to always keep in the back of our minds, because it actually means what is success for a materialist, what's the highest for a materialist, will be what for a spiritualist? Huh? Lowest. Most likely it will be an obstacle, right? An impediment. And what is the highest for a spiritualist is seen as what? The lowest. Well, it's seen as weakness, as being a loser, right? Yes. This is such an important thing to deeply understand. Because if we don't understand that, then we invite all kinds of things from the outside world into our life, which is seen to be progressive and cool and modern, right? Yes. But most likely, these things will create an obstacle on the path of bhakti. Yeah. And tolerance is a perfect example. Right? In bhakti, it is such a highly important thing to cultivate, but for a materialist, what's tolerance for a materialist? Huh? Yes, weakness. Why don't you tolerate that nonsense? Forget it. I'm not tolerating that. I'm walking out. I get divorced. Standing up for your right, fighting back. That's seen to be victory, but not tolerate. No. And very easily, if we don't know this day-night principle, we can get a little confused. And we invite all kinds of unwanted attitudes into our life, not realizing that, this will be a stumbling block. So now tolerance, sometimes we hear people say, oh yeah, how much can you tolerate? And if I tolerate, I have all this negativity building up in me, and sooner or later I explode and get all angry and get sick, and tolerance doesn't work for me. I've tried it, doesn't work for me. I've met people like that. So now let us understand what we usually think to be tolerance is actually not real tolerance. We are simply trying to suppress our emotions. We know tolerance, or we think tolerance simply means to shut up, not say anything, but then inside it, the false ego is still complaining and protesting and rebelling, right? The whole false ego battle is internally going on. And then it is building up until we explode and get angry or get sick or whatever. So that is simply suppressing. And suppressing things is never the solution. Doesn't matter what we suppress, whether it's anger or lust or whatever. Suppression will not lead to purification. Sometimes, we have these misconceptions that we try to suppress certain desires or needs, but it will come up in all kinds of other unwanted ways. So suppressing will not get us very far. So now true tolerance, let us understand what that means. So for true tolerance, we actually have to do some internal work. And we need two tools for this internal. So the tool number one is that we say, well, I'm actually a rascal. I deserve so much worse. But Krishna is so kind, he only gives me one drop of what I really deserve. If we have that approach, and we may not be able to have this overnight, it is a question of cultivation. But if we only try to cultivate this approach, that actually I deserve worse. I must have been nasty to this person before in this life or in my previous life, and now I'm getting it back. And actually I deserve so much worse. But Krishna is just so kind and only gives me a tiny fraction of what I really deserve. So what quality do we have to cultivate that approach? What do you think? Huh? Gratitude, yes, it's not wrong, but I was looking for something else. Huh? We mentioned it already. Humility. And gratitude is one of the secondary qualities of humility. So we need some little humility to have this mood, right? A proud person will say, I don't deserve this. Don't they know who I am? I've been chanting Hare Krishna for 35 years. I've given such big donations. Why are they doing this to me? And so on. That's the proud attitude. But a humble humble person will always think, actually I've done nothing. I haven't even started really serving the devotees and part-hearted the Lord. I'm just playing around here. So when will the day come when I actually really do something? You know? Yes. So, and if we have that humble mood, then we will be able to say, actually, I deserve so much worse. Yeah. So, humility, some little humility at least we need. So now the second tool is that we see every situation in our life with Krishna in the picture. That we see Krishna's hand in the picture, Krishna's arrangement. That we ask ourselves, well, there must be a reason why Krishna puts me in this situation. What is he trying to teach me? There must be some lesson here for me to learn. Right? Seeing Krishna's hand in the picture. So of course when everything goes according to our hopes and plans, and especially plans for sex gratification, then how difficult to see Krishna's hand in the picture. Oh yeah, I got the job, Krishna's mercy. Oh yeah, this, that, Krishna's mercy. Right? But when everything goes great, this can also be Maya's mercy too. She also makes arrangements. Yeah, she's pretty good at making all kinds of arrangements. But when things don't go according to our plans, these are usually the times which are especially Krishna's arrangement, Krishna's mercy, because we are meant to learn something, we are meant to become more introspective and reflect and look in our hearts. Yes. But very often in those challenging moments, we cannot even see Krishna's hand in the picture. Oh, I have come across situations, where people come in and share some calamities and challenges. And I'm trying to help them to see Krishna's hand in the picture. No, Krishna's not there. The mind goes on, this shouldn't have happened, and I do this and that. So people can't even connect their situation with Krishna in the picture. But that's actually what it means to be Krishna conscious. To see Krishna's hand in the picture. Yes. That's what it means. So now my question to you. What do we have to see Krishna's hand in the picture? We have to have something.
Faith.
Very true, you've got it right. You didn't give me much chance to have it. Yeah, sometimes it takes quite a while for people to come to the sense of Him. But yes, it's faith. If we have unflinching faith in Krishna, in Prabhupada, in Guru, nothing can shake us. Nothing. We can survive any calamity. Yeah. Unflinching faith is another really important thing. Actually, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he says, unflinching faith in Krishna is the currency to purchase Him. That conquers Krishna's heart. If he sees that a devotee is willing to tolerate anything in the service to him and the devotees, that conquers his heart. And we also have that experience from our life. If somebody has strong faith in us, well, what does it do? We will feel obliged, right? We want to reach out to that person. We don't want to let them down. We feel like we have to step in and protect that person. Isn't it? Yes? If we have a little bit of a soft heart. Yes. Of course, if we are hard-hearted, we will take maybe advantage of a person's faith in us, and we use them for our personal interests and whatever. But now, if we are a little soft-hearted, we will not do that. So Krishna is responding in the same way. So if he sees his devotee has faith in him, that really conquers his heart. Yes, so these are the two main tools to actually cultivate tolerance. So to be tolerant is a whole internal thing. Externally, it may look the same if a person suppresses or actually cultivates tolerance. No difference. But it's a whole internal matter of truly cultivating tolerance. And in that process of cultivating tolerance, we do need a counselor, a mentor, a coach. Just having guru, Diksha Shiksha Guru, not enough. We need this well-wishing friend in our life who has no other interest except our spiritual development, and who we want to be corrected by that person, who we fully trust, where we can open our heart and share our innermost struggles and fears. Such person in our life is of extreme importance, because it's interesting with a false ego. The bigger the false ego is, the less we can see it. You would think it should be the other way around, that the bigger and more prominent it is, the more obvious it is, but no. It's the other way around. I mean, in this regard, I want to share an amusing little story. You ladies want to sit down? Come here. Come. It's empty chairs. Yeah, I do want to quickly share this amusing story. I know one mataji. I know many matajis who have a very prominent, dominant false ego, but there's one who also is in that situation. And as a result, she always gets herself into some conflicts. And one day she kind of turned to me and revealed her heart, and because she was frustrated, and I thought, okay, let me try and help her to see what is the actual problem. And I was very careful, because I know the false ego does not like to be poked. So I very carefully said, well, you know, the false ego always gives us some trouble and creates some miseries. And her reaction, you wouldn't believe it. She was laughing. Oh, false ego, come on, what's that? I don't have that. Okay, I was shocked. How is it possible? You know, a person who is so tortured by their false ego, she thinks she doesn't have it. Oh my God. I didn't know what to say. The only thing I could think of saying is, I wish I could say this of myself, that I don't have a false ego. That's all I said. I knew there's no use to say anything else. I left it. But that's really how it goes. You know, it actually takes some little purification to realize how almost every day the false ego gets into our way and pushes us to say and do things which we shouldn't say them. And we defend and answer back and find excuses and blame. Oh, they're all defense mechanisms of the false ego. Yeah, so and because the false ego works in this way, we do need this well-wishing, confidential, trusting friend who can tap us on the shoulder and say, hey, just cool down a little bit. No, you're just going on a bit over the top here and just let go of the false ego. Otherwise, we are just so trapped in these false ego patterns of behaviors. Oh, it's hard to get out. Anyway, so the tools for cultivating tolerance, humility,
Faith.
and faith in Krishna. Yes. These are the tools. Actually, I do want to read to you just one pretty powerful statement about tolerance. This is 1st Canto, 18th chapter, verse 48. The devotees of the Lord are so forbearing that even though they are defamed, cheated, cursed, disturbed, neglected, or even killed, they are never inclined to avenge themselves. Wow. Very high level of tolerance. Of course, in regards to being killed, we do also have this instruction that when the 6 aggressors attack, we can defend, right? So 6 aggressors is poison, attacking with a sharp weapon, setting fire, kidnapping the wife, stealing our property, world, one more. Huh?
I think we deadly.
Yeah, I mentioned it earlier. Anyway, it doesn't matter, but one more. So, yeah, but these things don't happen every day, right? Yeah. So, but there is some provision where we can defend, because there is the rule of Vaishnava etiquette that a devotee should never defend themselves, but we should defend others when we see them badly treated. Then we should step in and defend. And if everybody follows this Vaishnava etiquette, then there is no need for ourselves to defend, right? Because surely somebody else will step in and say something. But unfortunately, we tend to do the opposite of what we really should be doing. You know, every day we're pretty good at defending ourselves in so many ways, of course, verbally, finding excuses, having the last word, and blaming and so forth. Yeah, so we are very good at that. But if another person is badly treated, then we look away, we don't want to get involved. Or after all, my friend was involved there, if I say something that will ruin my relationship, oh, better stay out of this. Right? Yeah. Very common. We face this. So yeah, and I mean, you imagine when we are defamed, when our reputation is ruined. Ooh, this is a challenge for the false ego. What will everybody think now of me? Right? Whenever this thought comes in our head, what is everybody thinking of me? That's the false ego whispering in our ears. Or when we are cheated, also a challenge for the false ego. Not fair. You know, false ego crying for justice, fairness. Or when we are neglected, or when we are insulted, very, very challenging for the false ego. But to tolerate these kinds of unhappiness without being agitated. This is what it means to tolerate. Of course, talking about tolerance, let's make this clear. We cannot justify abuse with being tolerant, right? So abuse has to be dealt with. Yeah. That has to be looked at. Also, for the sake of protecting the abuser from getting some reaction, because performing any kind of abuse, whether it's physical, emotional, sexual, whatever it may be, this is an offense, so we get some reactions for this. So also because of that, you know, we have to deal with it, we have to address it. Just to make this clear, because sometimes people are a little confused about these things. So let me see, do we have anything about the topic of tolerance before we move over to the topic of forgiveness? So now, please don't bring up questions about forgiveness, because we haven't really gotten there yet. We are just talking about tolerance, because we said the inability to forgive is actually based on the inability to tolerate. Right? So do we have any questions about the topic of tolerance?
Yes.
How would you differentiate between tolerance and acceptance?
Tolerance and acceptance, the difference. Well, I dare say, only if we can tolerate, we can come to the point of acceptance. Right? Yeah. If we cannot tolerate, we will not be able to accept. For its ego is again protesting, forget it, and then, you know? Yeah. So we can say acceptance is like another secondary quality of tolerance. And tolerance is another secondary quality of humility. Yeah, only if we can tolerate, we come to the point of accepting. And as I'm saying, this may be an internal process. We may not be able from one day to the other to tolerate and accept. You know? It may require some internal work, that we use these two tools. Actually, I deserve so much worse, and what is Krishna trying to teach me here? There must be some reason why he puts me in this situation. Not a blade of grass is moving without him being in control. You know? So it is a meditation in inner cultivation, where a counselor or mentor can help us immensely in that process. What else? Any other question about tolerance while I'm opening the book? Yes.
Mataji, when a person is practicing tolerance or trying to work towards it, and when the external world looks at it as a weakness, how to get away from that influence, or actually try to, would you recommend trying to prove the difference between the weakness versus tolerance?
1 minute. I'm just looking through the right page. Well, a person with mundane vision will always think that tolerance is weakness. and with a spiritual vision, we see things differently. So, yeah, you will not just so easily just convince a non-devotee of the fact that tolerance is actually something we should strive for. They have just a different outlook on life, you know. But your question leads me to one point, which very often comes up, that people say, well, but if I tolerate out there in the material world, then people walk all over me, and I don't get anywhere, right? Isn't it? Is that going to some of your minds, right? Yes. So, in that regard, let me share that even in mundane dealings, we have to very carefully consider whether it is worthwhile defending or whether it is just better to tolerate. Because also, we may be very successful fighting through life, defending all the time, not tolerating, but then at the moment of death, one more life in the material world, we have not managed to give up our false ego. And when we use these opportunities to give up our false ego, even though a materialist may say, what, you tolerate, my God, forget it. But no, we use it as an opportunity to let go of our false ego. And then we are ultimately the winner. And I do want to share one little example from my own personal life. This is quite a few years ago. Let me think. Wow, this is 17 years ago. The German taxation department. I'm from Germany, by the way, if you wonder what kind of strange accent I have. So it's a mixture between German and Australian, because I joined in Australia and I lived there for quite a few years. I actually have lived in Germany for 41 years, so I never lived there as everybody, but I have a German passport, which is pretty handy. Anywhere pretty easily. So anyway, yeah, some 18 years ago, the German taxation department charged me 1,500 euros tax, which I was not supposed to pay. They simply cheated me. I wasn't even registered as living there. And there was no question of me paying any tax for anything. But because I was always traveling, I missed the 3 months period where I could complain. Somebody else had accepted the letter on my behalf. They didn't open it, so I didn't hear what was inside. And then by the time I got the letter, the 3 months were gone. And I was so furious, my false ego. What is this nonsense? They are cheating me, and so on. And I immediately rang the lady at the taxation department, and we immediately had some argument there on the phone. And she just said, well, you can take it to court, you missed your 3 months. Sorry, that's all you can do, you're free to take it to court. And the whole thing was going on in my mind in circles, and what to do, and so on. And then I remembered one verse in purport, which I had written in my verse book. I've collected here so many things over many years. So thank God I wrote this in the year, otherwise I probably wouldn't have remembered it. And I will read this to you now. So the verse is 4:19-34. The verse is as follows. We should always remember that if something happens by providential arrangement, meaning Krishna's arrangement, we should not be very sorry. The more we try to rectify such reverses, souls, the more we enter into the darkest region of materialistic thought. So now Prabhupada's purport. Sometimes the saintly or very religious person also has to meet with reversals in life. Such incidents should be taken as providential, although there may be sufficient cause for being unhappy. One should avoid counteracting such reversals, for the more we become implicated in rectifying such reversals, the more we enter into the darkest region of material anxiety. I immediately felt that. Lord Krishna has also advised us in this connection. One should tolerate things instead of becoming agitated. So I remember that, and I thought, okay, let me just pay it. I haven't paid much tax in this lifetime. Maybe I still owe them something. Doesn't matter. At the moment of death, is this still important? Even now it's not important anymore. Yeah. So I just paid it. But for a couple of days, the false ego was still complaining. Oh, Krishna's Lakshmi, I could have used it in Bangladesh and so it took me a couple of days, but only a couple of days. I let the false ego ramble on, didn't give it any attention. It gave up. Yes. So, I mean, that is a good example to illustrate that, yeah, we have to very carefully consider, even in mundane dealings, whether it's worthwhile defending. I mean, do you imagine if I had taken the whole thing to court? No, I couldn't. This would have been a whole battle. My Vaishnava would have been out the window. Oh, no need. No need. It's not worth it. Of course, Prabhupada, he was fighting court cases, right? But he didn't fight them on his behalf, he fought them on Krishna's behalf. This was not a false ego thing or something, but he was fighting on Krishna's behalf, and that's why he was victorious. So anything else about the topic of tolerance? Isn't that ignorance? Ignorance. Well, with mundane eyes it may. But, with a spiritual vision, I used that opportunity to let go of my false ego. At least a tiny little bit. And see also, there's one interesting point. Prabhupada calls life in the material world, he calls it the nonsensical stage performance. I really like that one. It's one of my favorites. The nonsensical stage performance. So each life is like a performance of the stage. One life in the immense body. So we're running around. Oh, so busy, so many things to do. Oh, so important, everything. Then death comes to it, closes, show is over. It's all finished. Then next life, woman's body in Germany, if you're unlucky. And then again, running. So many important things to do. So busy, no time for this Krishna consciousness. Too busy. So and again, curtain closes, show is over, lifetime after lifetime. That's a very flickering, temporary reality. Nonsensical state. Actual reality is my relationship with Krishna. That's eternal reality. That's the only thing we are allowed to keep at the moment of So, this is just part of the nonsensical stage performance, you know? Has, on the absolute platform, no significance. Absolutely not. Yeah. Good to remember this. We can actually say the process of Krishna consciousness is meant to bring about a whole transformation of our perception of reality. Right? When we are new to Krishna consciousness, we think the nonsensical stage performance is reality. That's all we know. You know? But then gradually, as we deepen our relationship with Krishna through very deep and prayerful chanting, not just on the counter, that chanting will not establish our eternal relationship with Krishna. We have to feel and return to Him, call out to Him, Krishna, I want you, I need you. Oh, it's a whole art, this chanting. Actually, let me share. Every year over Christmas, I conduct a holy name retreat in HH Niranjana. Who has been to HH? No, not so many. So, you have to come. No excuse. HH is Nityananda's birthplace. So this year it will be 23rd to 27th of December. I've already updated my website. It's already posted. Very nice experience. I take a whole busload from Marco to HH. I organize everything, the bus, accommodation, prashad, everything. All you have to do is register on my website and be in time and out. If you switch off your mobile phone during the whole retreat, I promise you, you will enter a different reality. Very powerful. By the way, I live without a mobile phone. I travel the whole world and I don't have a phone. Yeah, I communicate by laptop, email, Teams, that's why. People always ask me, how do you get anything done without a phone? And you know what I ask them? How do you get anything done with a phone? I wouldn't get anything done with a phone. All these distractions, all these videos and pictures and voice messages and oh goodness me. I wouldn't get anything done. Yeah, I mean the phones are the #1 distraction. So anyway, if we really deeply explore the signs of chanting, then we deepen our relationship with Krishna, and then gradually we will see a transformation of reality. You know? We realize that is actually eternal reality, my relationship with Krishna. And of course, we have to function in both realities, so we play the game there, you know, nonsensical stage performance, we do our little bit there, but we are firmly established in my relationship with Krishna. That reality is insignificant. No. All right, well, maybe let us turn into the forgiveness topic. Right? Yes, so let us first of all remember, life in the material world will always confront us with so many unexpected disappointments and hurtful situations. This is unavoidable. This is simply part of life in the material world. And our relationships will be filled with so much more joy and harmony as we learn to forgive and move on. right? Yes. I'm sure we all know or we have heard of Nelson Mandela, right? The freedom fighter in South Africa who was in prison for quite a number of years. So he shares, as I walked out the door towards the gate that would lead to my freedom, I knew if I didn't leave my bitterness and hatred behind, I would still be in prison. Yes. We may be released from the big prison, but as long as we cannot forgive and let go of this bitterness and hatred, then that will imprison us. Yeah. Another thinker discovers, I never knew how strong I was until I had to forgive someone who wasn't sorry and accept an apology I never received. We can forgive others not because they deserve forgiveness, but because we deserve peace. So that's the point. We always think, we forgive for the other person's sake, and we may think, oh, this person doesn't deserve that I forgive them. But no, that's not the point. We deserve peace. Right? Yes. The truth is, unless we let go, unless we forgive ourselves, this may also be a challenge, right? We may have done a real blunder, a foolish mistake, and then again false ego whispers into our ears, how could you do this? Now what is everybody thinking of you? And you spoiled your reputation, and so on. Yeah? So we also have to learn to forgive ourselves. Rather than drowning ourselves in guilt feelings and self-pity and all these kind of things, we have to learn to forgive ourselves. Right? Yes. And again, we can use the two tools. Right? Actually, I deserve worse. Krishna is so kind. He only gives me one drop. And at least I'm still alive. I'm still with the devotees. Could be worse. And what is Krishna trying to teach me? There must be some lesson he's trying to teach me. Maybe I was a bit too puffed up and he's smashing my pride, making me understand I'm not as advanced as I thought I was, and so on. Yeah. So, unless we forgive ourselves, unless we forgive the situation and others around us, unless we realize the situation is over, it's done, it's in the past, we cannot move forward. Yeah, that's what it does. We are stuck and we cannot move forward. And we definitely will not be able to go back to God with all kinds of unresolved issues, no matter what they may be. No matter what, whether they're childhood traumas or so many things, we have to work on these things and resolve them because they occupy the mundane mind there. And as we said, if the mind intelligence towards ego is not fully spiritualized and transformed, we have to come back. We have to come back and resolve all these unresolved issues. Yeah. Good to clearly understand. Best not to even allow them to build up. In our day-to-day relationships, and there was some misunderstandings, best to talk about it, clear the atmosphere, apologize, and so on, and let go and forgive and move on. Forgiveness is not only something we do for other people. We also do it for ourselves to get well and move on. Forgiveness doesn't excuse their behavior. That's also often what we think, right? That when we forgive that they are excused. No, that's not the topic. They are not excused. Right? But by forgiving, it prevents their behavior from destroying our heart. That's what it does. It's not the issue whether they deserve it or not. We deserve it. Yeah. Maybe it is not always about trying to fix something broken. Maybe it's about starting over and creating something better. Forgiveness is when I give up my right to hurt you for hurting me. So that's what says. It is not about letting someone off the hook for their actions. That's also what we often think. But freeing ourselves of negative energies that bind us to them. That's what it is all about. We just don't allow that person to have that importance in our life. That the person can ongoingly affect us with that negative energy. Forgiving does not erase the bitter past. A healed memory is not a deleted memory. Very often we say, forget and forgive. But no, we don't forget. We better don't forget. Otherwise, very easily, the whole thing can repeat itself, because usually, if we experience some painful situation, we also play some part in it that it happened. It's not just the other person. So that's why we should not forget. But we remember with a healed memory, without pain, without hurtful feelings there and grudges. We can look back and maybe smile or even laugh about it. Oh yes, I remember what happened. Oh, definitely I remember. But there will be no pain. Then we have forgiven. When we can remember without that painful and bitter feeling. Then we have forgiven. And again, it may take some time. The wounds may need some time to heal, but we have only forgiven when we really look back at it, and there is no pain and grudges and bitterness. A healed memory is not a deleted memory, so we don't want to delete it, but we want to heal it. Instead, forgiving what we cannot forget creates a new way to remember without pain. Right? Yes. We change the memory of our past into a hope for our future. Relationships get stronger when both are willing to understand mistakes and forgive each other. We can offer a prayer. My dear Lord, if I hurt others, give me the strength to apologize. If people hurt me, give me the strength to forgive. So what do you think? What is more difficult? Apologize or forgive? Is it? It takes a strong person to say sorry and even a stronger person to forgive. Forgiving requires more internal work. And of course, sometimes our apologies can be just lip service. We say, oh, I'm so sorry, But actually, and then comes the whole justification why actually we were right and the other person was wrong and so on. But even if we were right, we can still say, I'm sorry for the disturbance and pain and so on. Of course, it was not my intention. So yeah, I want to ask for a To forgive is not always easy. At times it feels more painful than the wound we suffered to forgive the one that inflicted it. And yet, there is no peace without forgiveness. When we forgive, we heal. When we let go, we grow. Forgiveness is about recognizing that staying resentful creates an active echo of the pain the offender caused. That's also a nice way of seeing it. It creates an active echo. By saying that the awful offense the offender did is beyond forgiveness, we give them the power to keep their offense alive in our heart. That's what it does. We give the offender continued power over us. So, we may think we punish the other person, but we only punish ourselves actually. That's all we do. Alright, so let me see if we have any quick question about forgiveness. I guess we have to contemplate the topic and let it sink in. So what are the two tools?
Faith.
And humility, in what way, what approach should we have?
I deserve more.
I deserve worse or more. And Krishna is so kind and gives me everyone God. And faith.
Krishna at the center.
See Krishna's hand in the picture. Why is he putting me in this situation? There must be some reason. I deserve so much worse. And what am I meant to learn in this lesson? Alright, well, it's already dark outside. Maybe I will say a few quick words about these books. Yes, sit down, Blue. I haven't finished yet. Thank you. Yeah, let me actually share one thing. That for the last 25 years, I have been very involved in preaching in Bangladesh. And Bangladesh is a very special place. Most of Mahaprabhu's associates come from that part of Bengal, which is now Bangladesh. Even Mahaprabhu's parents, Sachimata, Jagannath Mishra, and of course Rupan Simat Goswami, and even Narottam Thakur, Punrik Vinyanidhi, Acharya, Srivas Thakur. They all come, even Madhavendra Puri. Wow. Yeah, I mentioned them already. So many holy places there. And in no other place of the world has our Vaishnava culture been established as much as there. When I travel there, I feel like I'm entering Chaitanya Charitamrita. Oh, Bhajan Kirtan, Prasadam, Vaishnava hospitality culture. Oh, it's going full swing. Quite amazing. So, in over 25 years, I've learned so many things there because, especially me as a German, my God. I had no clue about Vaishnava culture at all, and I was firmly rooted in the day of the materialist, definitely. So over 25 years of spending quite some time there, we know each other from that time. Yeah. So I received a whole transformation, my whole worldview got put upside down. And that made me understand that actually we need some little education. Here we are at the university, so we don't only need education for the sake of economic development, but we also need a bit of spiritual education. So, and that inspired me to establish an institute for spiritual culture. And my base is Mayapur, actually. Mayapur is the only place where I stay longer than 1 or 2 weeks. I'm there for 3 months, so I give all different courses there. And now I'm putting the courses in book form. So each book is actually a 15-hour course. And they're very useful for training devotees and preaching, because all you have to do is read 1, 2 chapters, take some notes, Prabhupada's quotes are all in there, ready as your seminar. Very, very useful. And yeah, Prabhupada's books, they are the law books for civilized humanity. But often the law books are rather complex and not so easy to understand how to live according to the law. So, and it requires some complementary literature to help us understand what Prabhupada says in his law books, how to practically live it. And this is my humble aspiration of Krishna, that I'm trying to make Prabhupada's books practically accessible to people more. Yes. Because we are not there yet. We are not living what Prabhupada says in the Bhagavatam. Oh, we are miles away from it. Yeah. So I am taking all the different quotes there, mainly from the Bhagavatam, putting them in order, unpacking them with examples and so on. So now, first book is Spiritual Culture, Krishna's Divine System. This book is all about women. We women are very powerful, the feminine Shakti, much more powerful than male energy. So a woman, if she uses that energy properly, she can bring the very best out of a man, spiritually or materially, or she can ruin his life and destroy him. That's a powerful woman. Yeah. So every woman who wants to have harmonious relationships with men in her life, please check out this book. And every man who wants to get the empowerment and support of a woman should also check out this book. Then we have Sheltering Relationships. This is all about the importance of having a counselor, a mentor. We mentioned it several times here in this discussion. Especially these subtle things, false ego, envy, we usually miss them. We don't identify them. Yeah, so very, very important topic. Just having Diksha, Shiksha, Guru, not enough. Our gurus have hundreds and thousands of disciples. They often cannot see each and every person's individual situation in life. So we need this well-wishing friend in our life. And if we don't have that, very easily we stay in our comfort zone and we become stagnant and we're not moving forward. That's what it is. Then the false ego, our constant companion and troublemaker. Yeah, I guess we have some little idea what this is all about. But there's of course so much more. I give all different steps, 5 powerful steps how to dissolve the false ego. And so many other examples how the false ego gets into our way. All different Vaishnava etiquette rules and so many things. And there's also a whole chapter on chanting in Japa and in Kirtan. It's like a summary of the holy name retreat in Ekachakra. But of course it cannot replace the holy name retreat. Yes. So, because false ego, holy name is a powerful combination because, as we said, the piece as long as we are trapped in our false ego patterns of behaviors, we actually cannot really receive the empowerment and blessings which the holy name carries. Then we have entering the grihastha ashram. This is a handbook for matchmaking. How to see that a boy and a girl are compatible for marriage. We need a bit of help with this. I consider this one of the most important aspects of devotee care. To help devotees settle in compatible marriages. And especially in India, people mainly look at caste and money. And the devotional levels of compatibility that often they don't even consider. So you find so many considerations there, and you find in this book a whole list of over 200 topics which a boy and a girl should, or man and woman, should talk about with a cool head, without being more infatuated and love, because then we have the pink glasses on, that's why I made it pink. So, and with the pink glasses, everything looks so rosy, and then after a couple of years, the pink glasses fade away, and then, what did I get myself into, So, I have been serving as a matchmaker mainly in Europe, but please don't come and ask me to find somebody for you. Or for your daughter or son. But I'm following this process, and it's very helpful, very practical, and if you follow it, it's successful. Because sometimes I meet people, they associate for 3 years, and they still don't know whether they're going to marry each other. Hey, what is that? What are you waiting for? I mean, if you follow this, you will not waste so much time, because then sometimes after 3 years they separate, and then one of them is all in pain and disappointment, and they just wasted 3 years, where they could have already been married and have children. I mean, it's so disastrous. It's so many ridiculous situations that I encounter. So this is for all those who are not married yet, or for those who want to help others to find a compatible match. Then we have family love as an ashram, secrets of success. How to create the culture of bhakti in our home. Very often married devotees home life, you can't call it an ashram, a place for pure devotional service. So this requires a bit of training and education. We have to adjust our lifestyle, our habits, so many things. So there are so many details, and all based on the Bhagavatam. It is all in the Bhagavatam, but people overlook it and they don't realize how this is actually relevant to them. And there's a whole chapter on physical intimacy in marriage, how to live the principle of no illicit sex life. There's also a bit of confusion over this. And if we don't understand this in a mature way, again, it creates so many marriage issues. And I did some research, and I came across interesting episodes with Prabhupada, where he says things which most devotees have not even heard. So I hope this will make our marriages more harmonious and balanced emotionally, and yet more Krishna conscious. And last but not least, the Vanapasta ashram, meeting death with joy. Vanapasta, nobody talks about it. It's not established in ISKCON, even though the Bhagavatam is full of clear, strong statements. This is my point, it's all in the Bhagavatam, but where is the Vanapasta ashram? It's actually the first book published on the Vanapasta ashram. There's no writings, no seminars, nothing. And so Vanapasta is the stage in life, and the kids are more or less settled. Or if there's no kids, even if we are not married, when we are around 50, we should move on to another phase. To prepare us so we meet death with joy. And there's a whole chapter on death. What happens there on all the subtle levels, how to prepare, how to accompany others, very important service. I've accompanied quite a few personalities in this last 2-3 weeks, my own parents. I managed to capture the time and I had to park all my flying around the world and I had to get back to Germany. And I kept them at home and I helped them to focus and let go and move on. And both my parents had an amazing renounced. And I've accompanied quite a few devotees too. And I've had cancer 2 times, which by the way was the best time of my life. Ooh, you get so many deep realizations, and any calamity in a devotee's life can be turned into a golden opportunity to take more shelter of Krishna's love, sharing a lot of things, connected with facing some health challenges and so on. Yeah, so, and yeah, of course, saying what I said yesterday, to produce some departure, hopefully shakes us a little bit out. We realize time is ticking. We have only so much time left. We don't know. We have to be ready. Yes. I mean, I am thinking about this every day, that my days are numbered. And I'm trying to use every single minute of the day in a useful way of Krishna's devotional service. Yes. And for my preparation. Oh, yes, I'm making plans. Let's see what's Krishna's plan that we never know. And so we have to make plans. All our life, we have to make plans. You can't just say, oh, it's all up to Krishna. No. We have to make plans. And we have to be detached enough to accept Krishna's plan. But yeah, even about getting old and leaving this world, we have to plan. Yeah. So I'm making already so many plans. Who to have around me and not to have around me. Yeah, not forgiveness, but you don't want to have emotional people around you who don't have this spiritual vision and who feel all sorry and pity, or maybe you should take some vitamins and all that. Yeah, I've seen it all. Oh, my goodness. Yeah. So there's a few good tips there. So yeah, if any of you would like to get some books, the last 4 books are $20 each. The first 2 are $15 each. Many people get the whole set. A little discount, $100 for the whole set. And you can pay cash, Zelle, or even Venmo. So no excuse. All right, so 9 o'clock. I guess we better finish here. Thank you so much for your kind attention. It was a great pleasure to spend my time with you all. If you want to do me a little favor, maybe come up before you sit down and eat